absolutely love working with dynamic movement and energy in the physical way that I paint. It's one of the signature traits for my visual language. I'm kind of fascinated by energy in the world. You know, the only energy that the human brain can see is light energy. And there's so many different forms of energy that impact us in our atmosphere, from within us, that move around us. So when I'm thinking about painting, either abstractly or maybe a still life or maybe a figurative abstraction, I'm constantly thinking about, well, what type of energy do I want to convey? You know, is an object moving in the picture plane? Is the atmosphere around the object the thing that's moving? And based on those intentions and answers, then I begin to understand a little bit more of how to physically manipulate the painting itself to convey that intention. There's several tips that I've learned over the years to help incorporate dynamic movement and energy into what I'm painting, into the physical way that I build a structured painting. I've already shared one of those, and that's putting lines close together. Another one that I want to share is the use of expressive scribbling. So if I'm thinking about a figurative abstraction, a body, a face, maybe a still life, even a non-representational abstraction, I need to consider, you know, how much of the structure is going to be important to me. Do I need accuracy when I sketch or draw it, or can I use insinuation to my advantage? I'm going to show you what that looks like. In this painting right here, it's obviously a really loose example of a still life. Here's a bottle. This is an insinuation of a tablescape. There are two chairs. There's negative space in the background. But because I utilized expressive scribbling, it really conveys loose energy and movement more so than if I painted that still life with accuracy. So I'm going to show you what that actually looks like when I begin the bones of the painting with, you know, the discovery and exploration of just trying to capture structure. So on this surface right here, if I want to paint a table with a bowl maybe of lemons, maybe a rabbit, I need to either utilize my imagination and do that from memory, or I need to use a photo reference. But I want to show you what expressive scribbling connected to a specific intention, such as a still life, looks like when it comes to pushing energy and dynamic movement with objects that remain still. Okay? So I'm looking at this, and then I am literally just coming in and thinking about a plate. And then I'm thinking about where the lemons would be on that plate. You know, maybe there's half of that. You know, I've got maybe a diagonal back table. Maybe that's too diagonal. So I'm going to level it out just a little bit. Maybe there's going to be, on the rule of thirds, you know, a vase, a cup, possibly. And then maybe down here, there's a rabbit. Why a rabbit? Why not? So you see how loosely I'm sketching this. Totally loose. Maybe a little tail. So already what I have here, I've got a rabbit, I've got a plate of lemons, I've got a table form, I've got the backspace. You know, I might change up. Maybe those are curtains in the back, maybe there's a doorway, the beginning of a window. It really depends on how close to either a reference that I want to use or my imagination. But because I utilized expressive scribbling, I have the bones of a painting. I get to now decide how much accuracy am I going to bring to what I have so far. Am I going to go in here and keep editing and fine-tuning exactness to get it more realistic, if my goal would be to go to realism? If that's the case, how do I maintain energy and dynamic movement? Then I've got to consider the atmosphere around these objects and if that's moving. Or I've got to, consider edges, the insinuation a little bit more paired with the realism. But I really do not want to go realistic. I want to go believable, right? So what I'm going to do in my own brain is I'm going to use these scribble lines to my advantage. And I'm going to paint within the lines and within the spaces so that the lines themselves become part of the structure of the picture plane. You can see that in this one. The scribbled lines themselves are integral. I did not go for accuracy. I went for believability. I went for insinuation. That gives me the ability to really push a lot of energy and looseness and movement instead of feeling like I've got to get it right or I've got to get it accurate. It all comes down to intention, though. Every painter gets to decide what their intention is based on what they're painting and why they're painting. And for some of us, what our point of view is about what we're painting. I want to paint beautiful things in an imperfect way that convey energy and dynamic movement with a side of unpredictableness. That is my point of view as a painter. So because I know that, I have a lot of freedom and leeway as to the physical way that I structure my paintings. And using expressive scribbling is one of the tips and shortcuts that I use that I absolutely love so that I don't get too tied to getting it right. Now, if I was a painter that was embracing realism, hyper-realism, and accuracy, I would work very differently. But I'm a painter that's choosing expressive abstraction as my intention. So because of that, I then go, now what does that look like visually when it comes to shifting subject matter? So even if I'm beginning to paint a still life, which by oxymoron would say still, it's not moving, I'm still choosing to incorporate dynamic movement and energy in that still life because it connects with my own personal point of view. And when I create from that point, I'm never disappointed in being true to my authentic creative self. I hope this tips help you, and if you utilize it or if you incorporate it in some way, tag me or send me a picture. I want to see your progress.